glad I did. So I think we should continue to press. And I think, as Michael said earlier, the tide is perhaps changing on this issue. It's going to, if our movement is successful, we will erode the taboo, and we will sort of be able to eventually invade the halls of power. So I hope that perhaps we can have one or two hopeful comments and useful comments. Perhaps people can talk about things we should do as we move toward the end.
Yeah, we're summing up now.
Well, that's if I can follow up from. I think that's a very welcome turn. Thank you, Graeme. I think that that people in the media do respond to intelligent pressures. If they write something hostile to 9/11 skepticism, and they get a torrent of abusive emails saying, you're a CIA plant, or you're a nincompoop or whatever, that's exactly what they expect, and that confirms their prejudices. If, on the other hand, what they get is instead a torrent of thoughtful, evidence-based, clearly expressed and lucid responses, they scratch their heads. Now, there was a very interesting reaction on the part of the National Post's Jonathan Kay, who has described himself as one of this country's main cheerleaders for the war on terror. Those are his own words. Now, incidentally, he wrote a very decent piece in, I think it was this past September, about the Omar Khadr case, in which he summed up the evidence and expressed a due sense of shock and dismay at the behavior of our government, and said, do something. Don't just do something, bring this kid home. And it was very interesting to see the reaction of the kind of howler monkey chorus that usually posts in response to his pieces on the National Post, because they were bewildered. Here was their cheerleader for the war on terror saying something they hadn't expected. Now, in late October, he did something similar. He'd written a piece trashing 9/11 inquirers, and got, by his own account, a large number of carefully thought out responses. And he had the decency to admit in his October 27th column that in comparison to the people who'd written to him, he didn't know what he was talking about, which I thought was a very frank and open admission. And very interestingly, when I spoke at the University of Toronto last Friday, he was in the audience. He had come, I think, in part to, he was looking at the table of books that Global Outlook magazine had provided, and I think with some astonishment he registered that there's a good deal of very solid-looking publication and research on the subject, and realized that he had to start getting up to steam. Now, that's perhaps one trivial example, but I think that within the constraints of the corporate structures that John has referred to, which are seeking to legitimize, a certain pattern of largely hostile to life endeavors, there is a certain degree of openness, and I think that openness is expanding at the present moment, in part because of the visible collapse of the money sequence system. Right? It is visibly not working now. Global credit structures, global letters of credit, have dried up. International trade is coming to a grinding halt as a consequence of this, and the confidence in its own legitimacy of the regulating structure has taken a very severe blow. So I think there's an important opening for thoughtful, skeptical, carefully worked out interventions, and strong interventions.
Final thoughts?
Well, I was just thinking of ringing my head were Michael's words about and hostile to life enterprises. I want to put it that sort of loosely. It is any civil commons, any universally accessible life good is what is the unspoken enemy that is systematically gone after, whether it's in Iraq or whether it's inside Canada with, a proposal for a new social drug plan or whatever. It's social life infrastructures that are what is in fact attacked, whether it's by defunding or whether it's by war, is in fact, and it's at a preconscious level, because it doesn't have a private priced exchange for profit in it. It is therefore unnecessary or wrong or wasteful, and it is attacked. So to me, the whole positive, basic way of going at things is to fight for the universal life support system infrastructures of every kind, whether it's for stable climates and water supply that you can depend upon, or well-labeled foods, or a new, reaching our social infrastructure into areas that it's most needed, income security, jobs that are in the public sector for pollution abatement equipment. All these are social life infrastructures that have been the enemy, the unofficial enemy that's been attacked at every level. And that's really where I would see the positive ground of support and grow up through all this stuff that's happening. Because you'll notice everywhere these crimes are going on, you'll notice underneath it all is a money sequence advance and a social life infrastructure, or indeed ecological life infrastructure loss and despoliation every time. And that's what's wrong with it. And so I say build from the ground up. Now, what we've got inside Canada, just to go back up to the kind of manifest phenomena that we find with 9/11 denial, is that when a member of putative or contending member for Parliament suggested that 9/11 was foreseen, she was removed from the scene immediately by the cowardly act of the head of the Liberal Party. And I didn't see, I don't read, that's another thing, by the way, don't forget mass media. Anything that's got advertisements, corporate advertisements in it is not reliable information. But here was something that just happened in our election, to give you, in 9/11 even being raised as an issue. Was just boom, out, finished. And it seemed that there was really no public outcry about it. That would, it seemed to me, a positive time to act. On the other side of it is Harper, who I've seen publicly say that Canada's and the U.S. values, this is when Bush was here, are exactly the same. He said that publicly in the press conference. And so I think that the witch hunt, in short, I guess, the witch hunt is much more widespread and pervasive and confrontable inside our everyday life. We're finding it really basically everywhere, whether it's a member of Parliament, whether it's Harper, whether it's my own brother used to be Attorney General. This normalization of an attack on legality, and ultimately underneath it all, attack on any common life infrastructure, is a world destructive disorder. And that the struggle for these very attacked life infrastructures that we hold in common, which is basically everything of worth that we have, is where the positive action should really lean in.
So I'm going to conclude with a hearty expression of thanks to our host, Professor Keefer, Michael Keefer. And I must say that I do work in southern Alberta, which is where the Stephen Harper government has its base. It all started in that part of the world. And, the reality that there's a larger community of colleagues, a larger community of scholarship. I must say to the three of you, the fact that I can sit at this table with you and find some acceptance here causes me to feel less lonely, less exposed, more confirmed in the fact that what we're doing is in fact rising to the higher responsibilities of our academic mission, and isn't some kind of hooky or some kind of subversion, but is rather rising up to what universities should be about, and through our work are about. I did mention that I think there's going to be some reckoning in the future with what didn't happen over these last 8 years in universities, Canadian universities, U.S. universities. So there's a lot of work to be done, a lot of minds to share information with, maybe to even open and maybe push back the darkness a little bit. So thank you very much. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Saeed. Thanks, Justin. Thanks, Ahmed. Thank you very much, Adnan.